Hello, everybody. This is Melissa Moore from Karuna Training, and I'm so excited today to have my friend and I can say we're colleagues in a way, I guess, contemplative colleagues, Erika Berland, who I met very many years ago when I stayed at her place in New York when I was working for Naropa. So we also have this common ground of Naropa University. Um, so I wanted to do a podcast on embodiment, and the first person I thought of was Erika Berland because she's someone who I've known for a very long time as a dancer, movement, somatic specialist. She also wrote this book, which is Sitting, the Physical Art of Meditation, which is a really interesting book about somatic embodiment or anatomical embodiment. It was very new to me, even though I've done a lot of different body systems. It was really an amazing integration of her work and her world. I consider Erika an artist. She works as an artist now. She's in her loft in, I don't know where you are exactly. Where are you?
North Adams, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, right. Okay. In East Coast. And Erika and her husband, Wendell, founded the Masters in Fine Arts at Naropa. So she was very exposed to contemplative psychology in her years and work and study with Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And I just welcome you. And you can add anything I left out about who you are
Oh,
that you
thank
would.
you. Yeah, thank you so much, Melissa. It's a joy to be here with you. And it is true, we know each other for so many years. And just funny thing about Naropa that I was there in the early years from 77 to 83 when I went back to New York and then came back in 2004. So
Wow.
those were wonderful years. I used to call it my Buddhist boot camp, but I was teaching dance during
Right,
that
I
time
remember that,
at
yeah.
Naropa. Yeah, it
That
was
was during
great.
the period I was a student from 79 to, like, 83, and then I
I,
worked there in recruitment. So we have this history going way back, and yet it's so interesting that you know someone for so long, and then you finally get the opportunity to dive into their work.
Mhm.
And I'm always looking for ways in which Karuna Trainings, which is about contemplative psychology and really uncoupled from the therapist training, but how to live with contemplative psychology in everyday life as a kind of method of opening your heart and being in your heart. And I'm always looking for deeper and deeper ways to enrich embodiment. So that's our conversation today, but I wanted to invite you to kind of center us and start with a short meditation on the heart. Would you be willing to do that?
Of course, that sounds
Okay.
wonderful. Yeah, and just to say, it's so interesting if we think about our language that there are so many expressions that come from the heart. I'm thinking all languages, but in terms of English, heart sick or heart worn or
Broken.
heartfulness, brokenhearted. I mean, it goes on and on. So we've known for probably thousands upon thousands of years of the emotional body mind sense that lives in the heart. So I have found in my own experience that actually touching into the physical heart, not as an image, but a direct experience, can really add to our sense of connecting to all the many feelings that are there. There isn't one feeling.
Right.
So, yeah. So maybe just even in terms of the physical heart, if you take like your right hand and you just make a fist, your heart is about the size of your fist. So it's different for everybody. If you place it really in the center of your chest or kind of up a little higher, so the very top just touches the very top of your rib cage there. And just that's about where your heart is. It's really pretty center. We think left, but it's just a little piece of it kind of goes to the left. And then if you like, you could put your hand there, or you don't need to, but if you'd like to, you can have your hand there. And in a way, your hand is holding your heart. It's creating a support. And amazingly, the lungs wrap around the heart, and they're another holding of your heart. Beautiful imagery there that as the breath comes in, it actually feeds the heart first. The oxygen goes to the heart, and the heart literally holds, the lungs literally hold the heart. So if you like, you could close your eyes and feel that your heart is surrounded with this loving holding. And feel your breath. And as you're breathing, of course, you can feel your heart moving under there as you breathe. And if your eyes are closed, we use imagery as a way to drop into an experience. So you could image these chambers of the heart, 4 spaces. So already we know that the heart is space. It's holding these spaces. So as you feel that image settling in, begin to feel that you're allowing your breath to be almost like you're opening the windows of your heart. The breath comes in, and the image is that you're feeling, filling these chambers. So maybe you go from one chamber to the other, or you just feel this general sense of breath coming in, like opening up the windows, fresh air. And you're just breathing into those spaces without any effort. The wonderful thing about the breath is we don't have to try to breathe. It doesn't have to be a deep breath. It could be a subtle breath. It's allowing it to fill and empty. And that is imagery. That's visualization, the power of visualization to bring us into sensation. And we just feel what we feel. And as feelings or thoughts emerge, we let them be there. And we dissolve back into the feeling of what we're experiencing as we work with the breath. So it's refreshment, literally oxygen is pouring into the heart from the lungs through the pulmonary arteries, feeding the heart. Heart gets fed first, and then it goes to the rest of the body, all of that nutrition. The heart is being held. The heart actually rests more than it beats. The heart rests more than it works. So acknowledge that resting quality. Sometimes we feel like we're pushing our hearts around. We're pushing forward with our hearts. Here our heart is falling back into the hammock of our lungs. Our hand might be supporting the front of the heart, and we're allowing the heart to do its easeful job of nurturing, taking in what's needed. And maybe take another nice deep breath. And if your hand has been on your heart, how about we just extend our arms out of our hearts? Because our hands and our arms are directly connected to our heart, right? Energetically, and as we reach out to others, as we take hold of others and breathe them in. So just do a little heart dance. Hand to heart to hand to heart to hand. And feel how as we go through our day and as we go through our life, we have this direct connection of how we reach out, how we also say no, how we put up a boundary. We have all of these possibilities But sometimes we cut ourselves off at the shoulder. We forget that our hands go all the way through energetically into our hearts. And let's maybe end with that.
I love it. I love that. Yes, it's so true, hand to heart. Yeah. That's often how I locate my heart is by putting my hand over my heart. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
that so
You're
much.
welcome.
Yeah, well, let's start by exploring this language because, you have a different language, and certainly your book talks a lot about embodiment and um, anatomical embodiment, and just maybe a little bit about your background and how you got into this and what
Yeah, sure.
it
Great.
all goes together. It's very
Uh,
interesting, very different from what I've studied.
yeah, yeah. Well, going way back, my parents were dancers. I became a dancer
Yeah.
and was in that world. And at a certain point, I began to question when I was kind of maybe late teens, early 20s, just the standing in front of the mirror and the kind of constant, I am going to do what you say and copying. And
Yeah.
my world started to branch out. And I actually met a woman when I came to Naropa, originally teaching in the late 70s. And a wonderful person whose work I eventually began to work with, which was body mind centering. Irene, it doesn't matter who it was, but she came and I was teaching my dance classes and doing my stuff, and she was teaching. And I said, "Oh, what is dance technique?" And she said, "Well, I sit, I walk." It was this quality of saying it's really more about that kind of basic embodiment, which is I started to feel what that was. It's not so much about only the technical aspects. And so
Right.
at that point, I just got completely entranced with body mind centering, which is developed by Bonnie Bainbridge Cohn. I met her also at Naropa. She came
Mhm.
to Naropa. She came to the free school in the 70s.
Mhm.
And I just so felt also the connection of that work to my meditation practice,
Mhm.
because it was not about imitating. It was about direct experience. I went,
About
okay,
feeling your way into something, not just copying.
feeling your way into it. And so I went, this is for me to explore. And then I went through years of studying and becoming a body mind centering practitioner, and eventually
Mm.
becoming a licensed massage therapist,
Mhm.
and also continuing to teach this work in the theater dance community at
Yeah.
Naropa. And a lot of this work from this beginning of what we call somatics, which was coined through the human potential movement in the, you
Right.
know, 50s, 60s. And it really was about, the somatics, there are different definitions, but the basic definition is the experienced body as differentiated from the, mechanistic body or the conceptual body, what I
Mhm.
think the
Mhm.
body is.
Mhm.
So that was a whole movement, which of
Or
course
what
went
I
into
think the body
psychology.
or
Go
what I
ahead.
think the body should be.
Of course.
And I've been
Absolutely.
thinking and I've been thinking a lot about, like, an aspect of decolonizing the body is stepping
Yes.
outside of that, um, those ideals that have been fed to us that have nothing to do with our body.
Yes, nothing to do with our direct experience.
Right.
So that's the whole movement of somatics, which is in many fields, in somatic psychology, of course,
Yeah.
and through Naropa. But it's interesting because the first kind of one of the really early ways that somatics connected was through the dance world.
Yeah.
It's very
Of course.
interesting. Those were Feldenkrais, Alexander technique. These are all
Right.
somatic techniques
Right.
that really, became part of our early dance world and start to change training, dance
Yeah.
and movement training. So there's a line there, and I think of Barbara Dilley, one of our wonderful dancers and mentors at
Yes.
the Ropa Institute. Naropa, then in Naropa Institute, who really taught contemplative dance
Yeah.
is really what we're still doing in terms of how you understand the body and how you go in there and how you explore. You're a researcher and an explorer,
Right. I love that. Yeah.
which is very
Oh, it's
different
actually
than just getting the thing, I'm going to do that.
it's like three things though. It's like meditation and movement and then psychology and understanding this pool. That was very much the pool at
Yeah.
Naropa. But
Yes.
funny for me, when I went to Naropa, I was a dancer and I was taking these classes and kind of forcing my body into this mold. And it was through meditation that woke me up to the fact that I was doing that and that I
Yeah.
hated it, that I was
Yeah.
actually abusing my body by
Yeah.
forcing myself into a certain weight and all these different things, that I had
Yes.
to actually stop dancing, stop
Yeah.
being in front of mirrors,
That's
and
right.
do that whole competitive thing, all of that that comes with dancing sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Radical. For me, I had to really get away from that. I had to,
Yes.
you know,
And in many ways that the dance community has changed. So it is not quite, it is really shifting and changing. Yeah.
how
So that's,
so? Can you say something?
well, in terms of all the somatic work, which has infiltrated almost all dance training, University of Colorado, everywhere, where people really learn how to research their body from this
Right.
personal place.
Yeah.
And
So
then you can do the techniques, you can learn the techniques, but you have to have this grounding in what is my experience?
and what
What's
I can and can't do too, because some
That's
bodies
right.
can do things and others can't. That's so
That's right.
interesting.
That's
Well,
right.
you led us in a beautiful heart exercise that was very anatomical, right? It had a lot of reference. So I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you that there's a quote in your book actually that talks about when we feel and locate the anatomical heart in our awareness, we experience the unique feeling, emotion, and wisdom embedded in the heart's tissues. So we do a lot of that in Karuna training. We feel into the heart, but not anatomically. Let's talk about like
Yeah.
what.
Well, I think in term, I'm going to put that within a greater kind of paradigm, which is something I call the somatic tools of accessing. Those are my words.
Hmm.
But so how do we experience and do the research?
Hmm.
So we
Yeah.
have different ways of accessing. So those tools are basically touch/movement, because when we're moving, our tissues are touching each other. So
Okay.
when we're moving, all of our tissues are touching each other, all deep inside, on the surface. We're also touching, of course, our environment, our world. So we have movement, which is maybe greater touch, but we also have, that tissues, even if I'm not doing anything right now, all the tissues are touching each other and giving me information.
Okay.
They're
How to
feeding me
tune into
information.
that information, right?
What?
How to bring your awareness to that information, right?
Yes, is through touch and through movement. And we know others can touch us, we can touch ourselves. That gives us feedback. Then we
Yes.
can also touch internally. When I move,
Yeah.
everything is touching.
Right.
So then I go, oh, I feel something. So
Yeah.
touch, movement. And as humans, we're designed that's our nutrition from first being
Mhm.
born or in utero, that it's
Mhm.
one of our basic ways
Mhm.
that we
Mhm.
know who we are is through touch and movement.
Mhm.
So we explore that as an accessing tool. Then we have breath, and I say breath/sound. So
Mhm.
sound is breath. The only
Mhm.
difference is a little, come together in the vocal cords, then it becomes sound. So
Mhm.
as we know, breath is so powerful as a way to feel into different
Mhm.
tissues of the body. We
Mhm.
have external breathing, which I'm, breathing through my nose, coming into the lungs. We also have internal breathing, which is cellular breathing. That's our
Mhm.
deeper breathing. We can do many meditations on that,
I love it.
where,
I can
where,
feel it when you say it. Yeah.
yeah, every cell is, changing its shape, and it incredibly how it knows to take in that oxygen molecule and not something else. So it literally pulsates, the breath goes in, meaning the oxygen goes in, which is the oxygen now is in our fluid system.
Mhm.
It's being carried to our ocean of fluids
Mhm.
into the cell, and then carbon dioxide goes out
Mhm.
and finally goes out. And it's our discriminating awareness wisdom at that point, what comes in
Yeah.
and what doesn't come in. so,
Really,
so
what
that's the deeper
wisdom.
breath.
Wow. We should just follow the body. It has all the wisdom, right?
Oh, completely. Oh, completely. Totally. so, so that's number two, maybe breath, sound as research. Like what?
Yeah.
Or feeling, all
Yeah.
these levels of how to use the
Yeah.
breath. And then we have very powerfully image or slash visualization.
Yeah.
So we know how we're imaging all day, we're visualizing all day, and we know how powerful that is
Yeah.
to
What I
affect
want for lunch,
every
right?
what and every possible emotion, feeling, all of that is usually a visualization of some sort.
Uh-huh.
So I always say, and I think I say that in the book, but that visualization is a gateway because it is an aspect of our cerebral cortex, which is
Yeah.
visualizing. But it's a gateway into a direct experience.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, I see the heart now, but that gives us a way in. It gives
Okay.
us a way in to have a direct experience. So you don't hold on to it. You
Right.
just like in any visualization practice, those of us who've been practicing visualization know that it's not in the image, it's in the experience that you
Right. The
have,
feeling, the sensualization.
the sensualization of it. And so that's so powerful. We know how
Mm-hmm.
powerful it is through practice. So the direct imagery of the body is powerful. We could have an external image like,
Mm-hmm.
a string attached to your top of your head comes
Yeah.
up and it makes your
Love
spine
that.
go. And, that's an image. In the work of this body mind center, we do use a lot of anatomical imagery because it's so direct and every person has it. Somebody might not relate to a string, or there could be a cultural connotation with a string,
Yeah.
but everyone has a body
Yeah.
and everyone is experienced with their body. So using the anatomical imagery can be a very efficient and direct way to have an
Like
experience.
like the four compartments of the heart and opening
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
heart, all of that. I love that.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
That's just a way to. So those are our tools. So we're using all
love it.
those tools to research.
Oh yeah, we'll keep going. Is there more? Because there's a subtle body aspect to this feeling body. Let's talk about that because we know about that in Buddhism. We talk about the subtle body
Mm-hmm,
being
mm-hmm. Or
something.
could we also use the energetic body? Is
Yeah,
that something that
let's
you're
talk about the
the
energetic body.
energetic body, the subtle
Right.
body? Yeah.
Mhm.
So if we were to be talking about patterns in part of body mind centering is looking at developmental patterns, like where did we come from? Because we
Right.
were there. We were
Yeah.
there. We were one cell. We were
Right.
two cells. So energetically, everything is vibration. We know that everything is vibrating. There's nothing that's not vibrating, meaning
Yeah.
molecules are connecting and
Yeah.
making relationships. Seems like something solid, but it's not. It's vibration.
Yeah.
So everything is, you could say the whole body is just vibration, right there. You could just go bang, there it is. Or you could
It's
go
all
into
energy, right? It's all energy. Yeah.
completely. It's all energy at that level. And we were there in that experience of just the vibration of a cell.
Hmm.
And then what, two cells, they're vibrating together. Then three cells. I mean, we
Hmm.
could go, as we know, and scientifically, we could go to much smaller compartments. But
Hmm.
everything is, so that's the broader energetic. In body mind centering or in this somatic work, we tend to connect the glandular system. All the glands in the body are lined up just like the chakras. And there's a lot of research now that says basically for thousands of years, people have had these experiences in their chakras, through their chakras, and that those are the glandular systems, meaning those glands are sending out hormones, molecules that are transforming our whole body mind experience,
Like
emotionally,
which gland
psychophysically.
with which chakras, do you know? Like, for example.
Well, I mean, the heart has a brain, and the heart is also designated now since 1980. I don't want to say the wrong, in the 80s, as an endocrine gland. The
Okay.
heart is a gland.
Okay.
So it means it's excreting all of these molecules and chemicals which are transforming our experience.
Okay.
So that's a powerful gland. So there's many lined up, which we can say are connected to the chakras. So
Ah,
many, that's all my book, the details, but that's a very fine, could say a fine experience of energy. Like when we go into more of experience of those, we have this feeling of how that energy goes beyond our body. It
but
goes way, way out.
it's interesting because knowing about that, knowing about
Mm-hmm.
those glands, knowing how the body is working anatomically, and then bringing that to an experiential level, I think that's what's radical about it. Is usually people know about it, but they know about it in their head, not
Exactly.
their
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that's the somatic world that
Yeah.
says, no, it's what's your experience, not mine. And
Yeah.
also, I love what our teacher, Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, says is basically, um, I don't have the answers. This is my experience. So
Right. That's a good
this
way
is
to
my
go.
experience. And so the work is built on people's experience.
Yeah. And that's like really what we're learning in contemplative psychology is to be with our experience as it is, that it
Yeah.
has wisdom as it is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not to avoid discomfort. In my book, I talk about
Yeah.
intensity capacity, the capacity
Yeah.
to be with,
Yeah.
um, to be with
Yeah.
energy that we typically manage either by suppressing or even acting out or something.
Yeah. So, Melissa, I'm just wondering, that sounds to me like a lot of making friends.
Totally,
Uh,
it's all about entry.
making friends and being familiar.
Yeah,
So when we go into the bodily experience, when we start to trust it, it's an inquiry. It's a,
yeah,
and then it changes. And then, oh, there's another thing. And
yeah,
so it's the friendliness, I think. And
yeah,
when you're doing the research, um, there's a certain confidence that grows,
yeah,
that it's not somebody said it's like this. You
right,
don't know. You
right.
explore. I mean, I love being an explorer, it
Yeah.
never ends.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you talk about this in your book as well, that how embodiment is much more of a being process than a doing process.
Yeah.
This is so
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
because being a doer myself, and I know you're a doer too, wow, that stepping back and being, yeah, it's like meditation, right? I become less and less ambitious as a
Yeah.
meditator as I age. So, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, it's
uh,
just is as it is, but
yeah. Well, it's always this dance between, the study and then and the, like you said, oh, all of this anatomy, how does that work? But then the, the study of that, the conceptuality of it, that, and then having the tools to then bring that into direct experience. Otherwise, it's kind of
and the tools
flat.
are the meditation, the capacity to actually,
Well, and all of these ways of, working with these tools of accessing. Well, how do you go into, and directly experience your skin as an outer membrane? And
yeah,
how does that meet the world? Or
yeah,
how do you feel your cellular breath? Are
yeah,
there parts of your body that are not having the freedom of breath cellularly? And that's a
yeah.
really physical experience. It's not an imaginary thing.
But when
So
you wake up in the morning, can you feel what's breathing and what isn't in your body? pretty much? Are you
I,
attuned in that way?
yes, I mean, that's why I do a lot of what I call aimless wandering through the body. And
Yeah.
it's just a
I
little mini practice of uh, really allowing my body to take charge and my
mm,
cells to take charge
mm.
rather than I am directing it.
I love
So I
that.
have hours of that kind of practice. I mean, it's meditation.
That's hard. That's like takes incredible discernment because I mean, aimless
Well,
wandering out in the world, that's a big part of our Karuna practice.
yeah, yeah, I know
Right? It's
that.
space awareness. So we
Right.
aimlessly wander after people.
Yes.
And that, just not having an agenda
Yes.
while you're wandering around is
Yes.
takes
Yes.
very high practice. So
Yeah.
wandering around inside yourself, I can imagine you go down a million rabbit holes.
Well, you're moving. So, I mean, you don't have to move, but if you give yourself a
Permission.
space,
Oh,
permission, because again, when you move, you feel more. So you make
yeah,
it easier for yourself. It's
I
not
see.
imaginary, like I'm going in and now,
Oh,
so you're moving. You don't have to move, but many of us are not so attuned to our inner body. So when
yeah,
you move, you're going to feel more.
yeah.
And
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, so you're moving, but you're not directing it at all. And this is
Okay.
important because so many of us are trained in so many movement technique, yoga or this, that, where you're taking a posture or you're
Yeah,
doing a thing. And that's wonderful. But this is not that. This is
right.
letting your body be the director.
I love it. I love that.
And
And then following your body where it wants to
it
go.
goes and it goes,
Yeah,
and then it's mindfulness awareness.
yeah,
Your
I love.
mind is full of
Yeah,
the experience, and the awareness is that you're there.
yeah.
And then oh, I went, what's for dinner tomorrow? Oh, I'll gently come back to, hey, what am I feeling?
I
What?
love it.
Oh, oh, oh. So it's not even a labeling. It's more just you're with it, you're with it, you're with
Right.
it, you're with it. It's
I love
exactly
it.
like meditation.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered if I pinned you because you're in a movement space there in your loft, and maybe you would guide us and move us through. Would that be possible?
Well, I have these
Oh,
attached, but
ah,
that's okay. I can do it just sitting
sitting.
down. We
Okay.
can totally do it. Except the thing about it is that it doesn't matter because I do not want you to look at me. So,
Okay. I see. Right.
so there is
Oh,
no reason to do that. All you have to do is listen and
okay. Beautiful.
respond.
Okay. I
So
think
should
that's great.
we'll do a couple minutes of that?
Yeah, like why don't you spend about 5 minutes guiding us,
Okay.
and that will be.
Okay.
We'll also release that at the end of the month. We release the podcast with this on it, and then we can release just that meditation at the end of the month.
Sure. Okay.
I love it, Erica. This is so
Ah,
interesting and so
no.
deeper. It definitely connects with our Karuna work very much, but is
Mhm.
doorways, different
Yeah, that's
doorways. I
great.
appreciate it so much.
Yeah, so if you, again, you do not need you can hear me, which is good. If you have a place that you could possibly lie down, it's wonderful to lie down because we have the opportunity to yield into support. So one of our basic, I know we could say it, premises or I think realities is that if we're not supported, if we don't feel supported, then it's hard for us to feel, it's hard for us to connect. So when you have a big surface, like a floor or a bed or a mat, you can fully yield into the support of earth. So if you can have a place to do that, allow yourself to do that and feel where you meet ground. Just let yourself experience earth is coming up, ground is coming up, and where are you touching it? So just let your mind wander through as our kind of beginning to this aimless wandering practice. How are you supported? Feel your surface, earth touching you. And maybe there's a few deep breaths. Just allow us to yield deeper and further. Just some nice breaths. just as we begin our aimless wandering practice. Sometimes we close our eyes because then we might have more ability to sense inwardly. It's not necessary, but if you feel like you can trust that, then it's okay. You could close your eyes and just feel what you feel as you allow your mind, almost as like your awareness is like a flashlight. It's not looking for anything in particular, but it wanders around your body and you just feel what you feel. It almost lights it up. There's a little light in one area of the body. And then your consciousness moves to another area and there's a little light goes off. And the light is not something you're seeing, it's what you're feeling, what you're sensing. And no need to analyze, no need to follow it through. Just feel what you feel and allow this river of sensation to just keep going as you wander around aimlessly. That's the aimless quality. No agenda except to feel. And then at any point, if you would like to move a little bit, and we moving because then we might feel more. As we roll over onto our side, ground is touching us in a different way. We might feel our skin being touched, that sensation. We might feel our joints, something shifted there. We might feel the weight of our organs, more inner body. So those are sensory nerves that are bringing all this information into our central nervous system. So we're loading those nerves. We're loading the sensory nerves, there are thousands of them everywhere, bringing us information. And we're just playing that river of information. And so we might roll, we might shift, but we're not directing it. We're exploring. It's just exactly what a baby does. Little baby is born. It doesn't have strength. It just feels. Rolls and it feels something different. We are also all of the elements. So the fluids shift. We feel something different. The bones, the strength, the hardness of the bones, they feel different when we shift through our bones. We feel warmth, element of fire. The warmth we might feel shifting and changing. We might feel our breath, air, wind. All the elements are there, freely playing, expressing with no agenda. Take another minute or two to play. And when judgment comes up, or am I doing it right? Just notice, just like in meditation, and simply come back to sensation. And maybe you have to move a little bit more, and so you feel more. So it brings you back. You could squeeze your fingers or hands. You could stretch a muscle just to feel, pure feeling, all the rivers of different kinds of sensations. And then slowly come to a place of rest again. And again, maybe touching into where earth meets your surface, earth meets your body. Feel that yielding quality, being held. Perhaps the breath, nice deeper breaths. And then slowly coming back to, if you had a nice spot on the floor, you can change your posture and come back maybe to sitting or however you were listening to this podcast. Or
Thank you so much. That was fun.
you're welcome.
I really appreciate your time and your efforts. Also, just your expertise is so deep in embodiment, and I really feel that. And thank you for that transmission. I'll repeat her book. Erika's book is Sitting: The Physical Art of Meditation. And it's very, very interesting. Goes through all these different systems she touched on today.
Available on Amazon.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a course with Erika on Karuna today. I would really like that, Erika. Thank you so much for your,
Thank you, Melissa.
yeah.
Thank you.